So a client reached out wondering if I could do alterations on this dress that she had got for an elopement. Actually, that's not true. So before I get to work with different clients or customers, I actually have a screening process where client will actually reach out, say that they need alterations or if I can do alterations for them. And I will ask them what type of alterations do they need? What type of dress do they have? And then I will gauge and see if it's something that I can do. Usually if it's not something that I can do, I will let them know so that we don't waste time with you coming in for an in-person consultation and me saying, no, I can't do it anyway. So that's a bit of a screening process that I do. This client actually managed to bypass that process. Now, it's been working very well for me. And so I guess sometimes some people slip through because I take for granted that, oh, we must have had communication before your appointment. So she shows up for her appointment. And I'm like, did we have a discussion before you came in? And she said, no. And I was like, oh. And I went ahead and approved your appointment. I was like, you're here anyways. So what exactly do you need? So she brings out this dress. And she was like, and she's laughing. She kind of knows that what she's bringing to me is a little bit of a hot mess. And so she says she ordered this dress off of DHgate. You can see over there, DHgate. And if you don't know, DHgate is like a marketplace. It's an AliExpress, if you've heard of AliExpress. They provide wholesale or different pieces, dresses, everything at wholesale prices. And so most of the times they do steal people's pictures and they'll sell them like this. And people believe that that's where the dress was made or the dress was coming from. So this was the situation. She ordered this dress off of DHgate and it came in. And this was the dress that came in. So this was her in the dress after I had asked her to try it on. And she was like, I know it kind of looks like a hot mess, but if you could do anything, please let me know. And if you can't, that is okay. And I looked at the dress and I was like, usually DHgate, AliExpress, and I told her, usually those vendors steal pictures of either celebrities, just people, other designers, and then pretend that they can make these dresses. And then this is the situation that happens. So I looked at the dress and I really wanted to say no, but a part of me was like, let's see if we can salvage this dress. So I asked her what was her vision, what she liked about the dress. She did say that she loved the sleeves, but of course she didn't like the way the sleeves were fitting on her. And I took a look at the sleeves. The sleeves were actually, even though they look baggy and long, they were actually very, very tight because this fabric, I believe it was just like a satin fabric and it had no stretch. In her inspiration picture, the fabric that was used, and I'm just guessing by how the dress falls, drapes, it looks like maybe it was a satin, but it had a bit of stretch. And so it falls a little bit more fluid, more shapely, as opposed to how stiff this one looked like. So she loved the sleeves, but the sleeves were super tight. She loved the ruching on the inspiration dress, the pleating around the waist. But even that, just how the original, the pleating on her dress, if you can see that, and the pleating on the inspiration dress, totally different with how they were going. And just generally, there was a lot going on with this dress. You have the sleeves, you have the draping, you have the pleats, you have the train in the back. It was just a whole lot going on. So I was like, I might not be able to perform a miracle here, but let's try and work with whatever we have right now and try and see if we can make it just a little bit more tasteful. I don't know, use whatever is there, but make it more tasteful. She was open to that. She was like, she's not expecting a lot. So the first suggestion that I had was, let's take off the sleeve and see how you feel about the sleeve, because it was doing a lot. So did that, and I don't know, it looked like it was shaping up to be a little bit better. I actually liked the way it looked without the sleeve. Now, her biggest issue was, of course, sometimes we're insecure about our arms. And so that was her biggest thing. And I let her know that her arm wasn't just totally going to be exposed. She had that draping to kind of hide her arm. And I was like, if you don't feel comfortable with that, I could probably borrow some fabric from the train to maybe add some to the original sleeve to give you that sleeve effect. But going through it, she was like, it's kind of looking like it's a lot of dress. So I think I'll be fine without the sleeve. So that was the first sleeve that came off, and I was going to take off both sleeves. Another thing that I did, pin the side of the skirt part just to give it just a little bit more shape, because it was a tight fitting dress. Again, because the fabric didn't have much stretch, but it was a lot of fabric. The pleating was doing its own thing. And so I was like, let me just bunch it up and pin that down to see if that makes a difference. And it did make a whole lot of a difference. And actually at this point, I had already pinned the side. So you can actually see, compared to how she was originally wearing it, how the pleats have lifted up instead of the way they were drooping before. Also, on top of that, the bodice seemed a little too long. And so I was like, I could try and shorten it a little bit. But as I was working on the dress, come to find out that that belt was actually, those were just beads that were sewn on. So it wasn't an actual belt that I could take off. And I'm like, that's going to be a lot of work. So I will take a look and see how it's beaded, because sometimes if you just seam rip one of the beads, the whole thing unravels. So I was like, I'll take a look on the inside and see how it's actually beaded on. If I can take it apart, I will. If not, I will leave that. And it doesn't look bad, but I think it would elevate the look if the bodice was shorter. Another thing that we had decided on, she didn't like how much drape on the shoulder had. And so she wanted to find out if I could tighten it so that it wouldn't hang so low and it would go a little bit higher. And so I had pinned that. And I think in the other pictures, you can tell that instead of it being so low, it is actually a little higher. So I went to work, but I also forgot to mention that the dress was weirdly wide at the bottom. I think they were going for the mermaid effect or the trumpet style, but look at how exaggerated the bottom is. It goes from straight to a weirdly shaped triangle. And so she was like, I don't really care for that. And I suggested we can definitely taper that, because I'm not sure what that fabric was doing. Even if I kept it there, you wouldn't be able to see the shape. So I suggested, let's taper it down. Let's make it straight instead of that trumpet shape that was going on there. So I went ahead and took off the other sleeve. I seam ripped it off. It was interesting how it was sewn on. It wasn't fully sewn onto the drape. It was just sewn on in different parts. So it was so easy for me to seam rip. Went ahead and sewed down the pleats that I was going to sew down. Just look at the quality of this fabric. It is annoying when you are sewing down fraying fabric like this. So anyways, I got that done. Had her come in for another fitting. Hey, listen, it was shaping up to be better than what we started out with. So I tapered the skirt, had it straightened out instead of that weird trumpet shape, took off both of those sleeves, shortened that strap that was, or whatever that draping off shoulder thing that was going on her shoulder, took in the skirt part and readjusted the pleating. So we were headed in the right direction. She loved the direction that it was going. Now, during the fitting, she liked it, but she was like, I don't know about the train, because where the elopement was happening, I don't know, they were going somewhere to a certain location, of course, for pictures and all of that. But then afterwards, they were going to go to a restaurant. And so she was worried about how the train would be looking in a restaurant. Here you are in a restaurant, you have this long train dragging behind you. And so she was like, I don't know, is it possible that we could remove the train? And I was like, well, you let me know. If that is your final decision, I can definitely take the train off. And so I looked at how the train was attached, because again, I was worried about the way the band and the beading on the waistband. And so I was like, I will take a look and see if it's something that I can't do. I won't. So I went ahead, figured it was fine to take off the train, but I just had to be careful, because you can see where the beading was. The train was attached to that, and you see the back of the beading was actually just sewn, I would say, individually. And so I had to be careful not to rip out or seam rip any of those threads on the beading, otherwise everything would unravel. To help with that situation, I usually use either Fray Block or this jewel cement. It's like a mild glue or mild strength glue, and so if you put that, then the beads won't fall. So I put a little bit of that just in case I made a mistake, and I went ahead and seam ripped the train off. And y'all, don't judge my ashy hands. It is so drying working with fabric, so you can see my ashy hands. I try to put cream on them whenever I'm working, but it's so drying working with fabric, so please forgive me. So she comes in for another fitting. Let's remember where we started off from, so this is where we started off from, to this, where it was shaping up to be what she wanted the dress to finally look like, to this. So removed the train. Actually, I guess you didn't see the back of the dress with the train, but anyways, removed the train. This is the back of the dress, and this is going to be the front of the dress. Listen, from where we started from to this look, it was definitely a huge improvement. I felt that this style was more flattering as compared to what she had originally ordered and what she wanted. It was definitely a lot that was going on. And yes, she was still a little reluctant about her arms. Well, come to find out that wherever she was going to be, it was going to be cold. And so she was just worried that she would be cold. And I was like, there's so many cute accessories that you could get. You could do fur to just wrap around, either for pictures or whatever situation will be happening at that time. You could get a shawl, just so many things that you could do to just drape over you to keep you warm. I believe they were going to be outside. Not sure, can't remember. But I was like, this is a more flattering look than what the sleeves were going to be doing. So before and after, how did I do? And let me know, what are your preferences? Sleeves, no sleeves, train, no train. Should we have ditched the whole dress, or did I manage to salvage it? All right, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.